Just a quick little housekeeping. Just make sure that you're on speaker view because then you can see the people that are speaking. Make sure that your mic is muted. We're going to go over with the panelists, going to go over kind of 45 minutes asking questions so that none of our panelists knew what these questions were ahead of time. So that, because I want you to, they're going to give you the real answers from the questions that, that we see. Talking a little bit about virtual events, how they adapted going, with COVID over to the virtual event platform. My name is Steve Edwards. I am the CEO of Premier Virtual. Little backstory on me, small town Wisconsin guy that went to the Army, got out of the Army, moved to South Florida for college, got into the job fair industry, put on job fairs, in-person events for almost 9 years. 2 years ago, I saw a change in my market. Found out about virtual career fairs, fell in love with virtual career fairs, thought it was going to be the future. Couldn't find what I wanted, so I built my own platform. So I had my development team, and we've been live. COVID hit. It kind of changed everybody's mindset of what virtual can do for organizations. Some people were early adopters, and some of the panelists on the call here jumped right into the virtual as soon as COVID hit. Some people that are in the event here or that are viewing may have kind of wondered how virtual can help their solutions. We work with workforce solutions from Florida to Virginia to Texas, in multiple other states, North Carolina as well. So listen to what they've done. And then at 1:45, I'm going to let you ask questions directly to the workforce boards. So I'm going to just have a quick little introduction. I'm going to, the panelists are who are going to be on here. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and a little bit about, what workforce they're with and a little bit about them. And then we'll get the questions. I'm going to start out with Thomas. Can you introduce yourself real quick?
I surely can. Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Leflore. I'm the Industry Relations Manager here at Career Source Brevard, Region 13 in Florida. And we've been with Premier Virtual for the last couple of months. And I guess we'll talk a little more about that a little later. But thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. Michael with Career Source in Palm Beach.
Sure. My name is Michael Corbett. I'm a vice president with Career Source Palm Beach County. And we jumped right in April using Steve's platform and have done 4 or 5 virtual career fairs up through last week. And we love it. And it's a great platform. And I love doing job fairs. Anytime you can connect job seekers with hiring managers, that's a good thing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Joyce.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so glad to be with you all. Again, my name is Joyce Rice. I am a workforce and business services consultant with Guilford Works, formerly known as Guilford County Workforce Development Board out of the city of Greensboro in North Carolina. When COVID hit, I was actually in the middle of planning for an in-person luncheon with the furniture sector in High Point. And as you all know, the city of High Point is known for furniture. We were planning for a luncheon, and when COVID hit, everything was shut down. And I immediately pivoted to what available virtual options were there because I wanted to capitalize on those business relationships, and I did not want to lose momentum with those contacts that I had. So I had no other choice but to be agile and to think of how I could still harness that relationship, harness those employers' interests, and really still have an opportunity to serve those businesses. And so we did use a Zoom platform, which went over well for that particular event. But as I looked at serving another sector, which was the healthcare sector, we began to really do some research about what could really accommodate this industry. And after doing some research, I fell in love with the Premier Virtual platform and really advocated for exploring it as a great tool. And I'm really glad to say that we were able to use it for an inaugural virtual healthcare career fair with some of the top healthcare employers in our region. And it went over very well in the community, and we're really looking forward to doing more work with you all again.
All right. Thank you, Joyce. Next up, Bianca.
Thank you so much, Steve. Hi, all. My name's Bianca Cervantes. I am the Communications Director over at Workforce Solutions Borderplex, which is one of the 28 workforce development boards in Texas. I met Steve through a random phone call. I was actually researching for virtual career platforms or job fair platforms because of the entire COVID thing. Obviously, we're a workforce development board, so we're expected to be holding constant job fairs, large ones, small ones, variety throughout the year. And COVID was kind of a slap in the face to us. And how do we convert to digital? As we converted to the home office, we had to also take everything else that we did with it. And given that my position involves a lot of public relations, the first thing I did, rather than research just regular job fair platforms, I looked to see if there were any platforms on the news. And I came across a really good story about Premier over in Florida with a tech company. And I figured who better to look into than an organization that a tech company trusts. So I called him, didn't set up an appointment. I called him, asked about his platform, and after a little bit of research with a couple others, I came back to Premier, and we've been using them for the past couple months. It's been extremely well for us. So we hope to help others with this webinar and hopefully get some more answers with ourselves as well. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Bianca. And last but definitely not least, David up in Virginia.
How is everybody doing today? Welcome. Thank you. Sorry, this is what happens when you're on meeting to meeting. I don't know what I'm doing right now. My name's Dave Remick. I am the Executive Director of the Alexander Arlington Regional Workforce Council, Alexandria City, County, Virginia. So think Pentagon and about 5 minutes to the right. Just like a few of you, when it became apparent that I'll need to cancel all my physically planned meetings as COVID was knocking down our doors, I was like, oh God, what are we going to do? And so I took my laptop, I went in my backyard, I had a drink, I'm not going to say what was in it, and I started emailing or searching all the different platforms out there and services, sending out emails, calling, and only a few called back. I wish I had stock in all these companies because this is where they're making money right now. But a few called back, and the best one of the bunch, and I'm happy that they called me back, was Premier Virtual.
Right. Well, thank you, David. Thank you all of the panelists for agreeing to join this today. I know you guys all have busy schedules and stuff like that, but we appreciate you kind of getting on. And Thomas, you're gonna get the first question because I get asked the same question. I get asked with the workforce boards all over. They ask me two main questions. The first question is, how do we track hiring out of it? Everybody asks that, and I said that's the golden question. We're gonna figure this out. And a lot of the reporting that we do, we want to be able to show that stuff, right? And as we grow and we use feedback from everybody. But the second question we get asked from every single person that is there is, and I use you, is how do we make sure that everybody is registered on the state site, which in Florida, that everybody doesn't know, it's called Unemployed Florida. So Thomas, his first event on the platform was 100%. So Thomas, can you give a little feedback of what did you do that saw such a success to make sure everybody was registered through Unemployed Florida?
Well, good question. And so thank you for having me go first. Our event was on June 30th. We had about a month to prepare for the event. And one of the things that's very important to us, of course, and I'm sure for everyone on the call, is being able to document the services that we provide. And in Florida, of course, it's Employed Florida. That's our MIS database. And so I know it's work in Texas, in Texas and other things in Virginia. But anyways, the point is, one of the things we wanted to ensure was that every job seeker was registered that participated in the event, and that every employer was registered and had at least a job posted in Employed Florida. So the way we did that, we did a two-part registration for our virtual job fair. So instead of just giving out the Premier virtual link for the job seekers, what we did, we have a tool, we have Eventbrite. Some of you may be familiar with it. So what we did, the first step was we promoted through our marketing department. We first promoted to our employers. We did that a week before the job seekers. And so the ticket for our job seekers or our employers to participate was that they have their jobs posted in Unemployed Florida. So obviously they're registered with us. So our business services team handled that piece. And all were registered with us. We had to chase down a couple of employers for job orders. So that was one piece. For the job seekers, the information went out the following week. And basically what we did, we directed them to the Eventbrite link. And from the Eventbrite link, we vetted to see if they were registered in Unemployed Florida. And what we did was ask if they were. If they answered yes, they automatically were given the link to the Premier virtual registration for the job seeker. If they said no, we sent them automatically what's called a short form, the short registration form, and getting their permission to register in Unemployed Florida. On the Premier virtual registration link, we also tried to get a little creative. We added the Unemployed Florida user ID to that link. So that would really prompt people to say, I really need to be registered in Unemployed Florida. Of course, all that information was spelled out in the marketing to say, hey, you need to be registered in Unemployed Florida. So what we were doing is checking the list daily as that list grew. And if by somehow someone got the link to the Premier virtual event, we would cross-reference it to an Unemployed Florida checking registered. So once we verified that they were, most were, but we had maybe about, over the course of the month, maybe about 20 individuals who weren't registered, then our team on the Career Center side would follow up with the job seeker, send them that short registration form. And in Florida now, we have to get their permission to register them in our system. So it's not as simple as just registering them. We have to get their permission to register them. And that information was on that short registration form, but we would follow up with them and make sure they were registered. So we had two ways. One, the two-step process of making sure the Eventbrite link, they checked the boxes saying they were registered. Then we would give them the link to Premier Virtual. Then two, if by chance they happen to get the Premier Virtual link, we were cross-referencing it daily to see who was not in Unemployed Florida. And not just in Unemployed Florida, they have to have what we call an active registration, an active Wagner-Pizer. So it doesn't make any sense to have them registered but don't have updated information. We still can't provide any services to them if they don't have what's called an active Wagner-Pizer in the Unemployed Florida system. So that was the piece as far as how we guarantee 100% registration. If the career counselors were working with job seekers, we already know they are registered, so they could share that link, the Premier Virtual link, that we could skip the first step, which is the Eventbrite. So that's how we did that. The second piece, or the second question, or which was your first question, is tracking hirings. And so, you know, really that goes back to relationship. There's really no magic in that. Of course, with the Premier Virtual platform, we have the information of all the job seekers who not just visit the booths, but who all who registered. So we could see which employers talk to which job seekers. And what we did after our event is we sent an email, a follow-up email the very next day. Our event was on June 30th. So on July 1st, we sent an email to all of our employers. We have 40 employers that participated, and asked again how things went, if it was a good platform, was it, you know, how'd they feel about the tool? Because it was our first go round. And the responses were overwhelmingly good, very simple to use. And of course, we asked if they had any interest of any of the people who visited their booths. And we actually had interviews set up that same week with some of the employers. And we also started getting the very next week, so the following week, information about the hires for some of those employers that hired. So the way we track that, again, we showed them too after the event, is how they could download all the resumes of the people that visited their booth, because some employers had questions about that. So we were able to send, Steve popped us a quick how-to video on that. So we sent that and shared that with the employers, and then also just let them know in that follow-up email to please let us know about their hires. And again, one of the things we preach to the frontline staff is gone are the days where you can just sit at the front and wait to get the sign-in sheet of people who visited the physical job fair. It was not a physical job fair. So it was no easy cherry picking on referring job seekers. So we had a flyer that we updated throughout the day of the employers that were added. We didn't put the job order numbers because employers could have 10 job orders, and that was just too much. But what we did, we let the staff know which employers were participating so they could go into the Employed Florida system ahead of time and refer their customers. So that's how some of those placements happen. And then the whole purpose in having everyone registered, job seekers and employers, is that we weren't giving away the shop for free. So even if there was not a referral made in our system, at the end, we can catch what's called an obtained employment for those matches.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that on there. And I know probably a lot of people love that answer because, again, daily basis, I get that question. So thank you for that. Next up, Bianca. I'm going to ask you, again, so I know kind of how you use this platform. You used it for individual organization. You use it for multi-company. But can you kind of explain, right, how you've used it, right, for your individual companies and for multiple career fairs as well?
Sure. Well, given that we have a pretty large staff, and this is an entirely new thing, not just for me, but for everyone involved, and including the employers, we already have established relationships with employers, and nobody had ever used anything like this. So our approach with Premier was initially to start with, just to kind of give everyone an idea, if anyone considers using Premier, was to start with what we called like a bit of a dress rehearsal. We worked with one of our really close partners, employers, and did a single employer job fair to start. We targeted using a text campaign and a little bit of digital marketing, be it web banners, and social media. We targeted a small pool of people because we didn't really want to have too high of an influx and not really be sure. And we had a little mini training session right before the actual job fair. So our first one, single employer, went extremely well. The employers were able to navigate the system correctly. We were able to jump on with them and assist as needed and communicate with the candidates, or at least coordinate, be a liaison between the employer and the candidates, as we saw from the outside. So that was extremely helpful. And once everybody got warmed up with it, as far as staff and some of the job seekers, we evolved to a two-employer job fair the following week. And again, did the same thing, a more advanced form of a dress rehearsal. And then we jumped to 5 the following week. So we had 3 back-to-back. Same marketing approach, text, digital, and a little bit of PR. And after those 3, our staff, and I'm sure some of the job seekers that had attended, kind of got versed into Premier a little bit more. So we went for the big one on July 15th, where we invited 50 employers. And we actually had just a hair over 50 employers. That was going to be a major event for us, given it would be a lot of coordination, a lot of prep. But thankfully, Steve came through with some really good instructional videos that not only assisted the job seekers, it assisted the employers, got them well-versed in the platform as well. And that job fair actually went really well. A combination of very, very targeted text segmentation marketing and targeted social media, and a lot of PR to get that going. So I'm not sure if anyone else is dealing with this. It's been a bit of an obstacle for us as a workforce board in Texas, where we believe that the federal benefits are discouraging job seekers with some of the first few job fairs that we had didn't have the turnout that we did. We had a really small conversion rate, considering the first one, I think we sent 7,000 texts, and I think we had 82 people respond. Like direct 7,000 people that were receiving unemployment, did only 82 or 80 something responded to actually attend the job fair. It grew as the deadline approached. And I believe that our text messaging and excessive marketing campaign for the July 15th 50 employer job fair did a lot more to help us, where we hit close to 500 attendees. That's very typical of what we would expect for an in-person job fair. So we were happy with that. But I will tell you that we sent out 33,000 texts to unemployment recipients that were recent unemployment recipients. So they were in need of a job. that we got a conversion of almost 500. So that's kind of where we're at. But the job fair itself went extremely well. And we got really good feedback. We got different types of feedback, but the employers are 100% happy with it. We're actually getting an influx of employers now, partially from the fact that everyone's having a hard time hiring right now, partially from the fact that word of mouth and our virtual platform has been extremely easy for them to use. Job seekers have sent really good feedback as well. But we're doing good, and that's kind of where we're at right now. After this major job fair that we had, we're anticipating we're anticipating 2 large job fairs a month is kind of what our inventory is going to be moving forward.
All right. Thank you, Bianca. You actually answered, hit on a couple other things that we had questions that I'll have, ask some of the other ones since you touched on that. But, Michael, you do something that I really see. You do things a little different, right? Where I think what you do is phenomenal. And you partner with a lot of the community as well, where I see some organizations do it, but I've seen you do it on a much larger scale. One I want to ask is there a reason for that? And 2, how have you seen the success out of all of that? Because to me, it looks, again, where you're partnering and there's a lot of things with that. What's your thought?
Sure. So Palm Beach County has about 1.5 million people. Our unemployment rate was 3% in March. It jumped to 14% in April. And I immediately thought, what can we do to try to chip that unemployment rate down? And this platform certainly provided that. I gathered all the chambers of commerce, the economic development organizations, municipalities. I called them all, I got them involved. I put their logos on all the marketing materials. They pushed it out to their membership, all their members and constituents, and that expanded the potential reach of the audience. But Bianca's correct. The people are not coming to the job fairs. They're happy sitting home getting $900 a week right now. But I saw last week when we did this with Palm Beach Tech, an industry partner, that we did a tremendous amount of social media outreach. Nikki did a great job. Joe did a great job. We had 30 companies. We had over 1,160 applications into that job fair. So I'm the type of person that likes to partner. I'd rather be inclusive versus exclusive. And it was very helpful to me to begin doing these now by industry. Next month, we're doing manufacturing, then tourism, hospitality, healthcare, and then in November, the Paychecks for Patriots, which we want to do around the state. And fortunately, Steve has now been awarded the statewide contract for all the career sources around the state of Florida. And we want to have everybody do an event the same day and get the governor to get involved and all those kinds of things that really make it a much more robust event. So that's my philosophy on these job fairs.
All right. Thank you, Michael. David, what works well for your organization, on the virtual side?
Well, I think you start off with the fact that we're all virtual now, but we were riding at about 50% virtual before. A lot of our business services were all conducted online. It was just the actual job fairs, whether it be the one employer or the multiple employer. Those were the things that were physical. So this actually enabled us to go 100% online. And to me, this is not a COVID thing. This is just how we're probably going to do it for the rest of our lives. I think it's more efficient. We are certainly spending less money or less time per job fair for staff. And it's easier to get the data out of what we're doing. When we had job fairs, it was very hard to get a sense of what they were worth it or not. There were some that I thought were just a complete waste of time and just a PR opportunity, and others that seemed they were doing a good job. But really being able to pull off the data from the platform and being able to go through the metrics and say, you know what, this is working out in a sense where, while we might have 30,000 people unemployed now in the Alexander Arlington region, at least I know that there are, several thousand applications being shifted over to employers. Employers are hiring. I think Michael mentioned it, going from 3 to 10%. We were 1.2% to, I think we're at 7% now. And so we were always in the labor shortage area. And now that we have, a ton of talent, we still have, hundreds of thousands of jobs that are available. And so people are hiring. And so this has been nothing but a net plus for our business.
All right. Thank you, David. I'm gonna keep with you right there because you kind of touched on something, the data aspect of it. How have you used the reporting with the data that you get?
So there's a couple ways. Initially I'm using it just for share internal, external PR. What do people want right now that are being laid off? They want their unemployment insurance. We all know that there are at least in several areas of the country, some issues around, that. I want to be able to show that the public workforce system is doing their job. They are bringing people together. They are bringing employers together. They're serving as the bridge between those two populations and those transactions that are happening. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, and I'm starting to look at it, we only have 2 of these under our belt, is to get a sense of really what works and what doesn't. There are some jobs that just might not be best for the PV platform, and there are others that are. We have booths that see very little customers, and that's a problem. Now, is that a communication problem? Maybe, and that's something worth exploring. But it could be, it's just the population to be interested in those occupations, that's not the right fit. And then we have others that are, have to bring in 2 or 3 HR recruiters to help them with the traffic that they're getting through the booths. And so do we want to have either specific events for that or to do some work on the front end so that those businesses have a more efficient time during the day of the event? So there are a lot of ways that we look at the data and say, all right, how do we take this to the next level?
Perfect. All right. Thank you, David. Joyce, what type of, I know you've only done one event so far, but somebody else touched on it, a couple people touched on it. But with you, what kind of employer feedback did you get from your clients from the event?
We received an overwhelming amount of positive feedback from the event. The employer engagement was very, very high. The employers were very responsive, and they were also very involved in the training, following through with setting up their booths. We had a very clear communication plan, and we also had delegates that were handling certain aspects of the planning. So one of the things that we really wanted to make sure is that we were providing a very good service to our employers. We never wanted employers to ever feel lost in the process, the logistics of registering, or the logistics of setting up or uploading media, or the logistics of knowing how to interact with job seekers. So we had a dedicated communications person where we actually sent out communications for registration, communications to confirm registration, communication for booth setup, the training videos, as well as ample enough time for them to register for the training. So doing those additional steps, I believe really created a good experience for our employers. And the feedback was very good. We also sent out a survey just to make sure that we covered our bases. Because again, we want to, use this as a means to continue to build relationships with employers to meet their hiring needs, and really make sure that job seekers have an opportunity to get the jobs that match their skills. So it was an amazing, overwhelming, positive response. And we're looking forward to moving into other sectors within our board. So my understanding is I think we're going to be doing another one in IT. This has also opened up another door for our board to really position ourselves as, I would say, leader in this space, because now we're able to support other agencies and other entities like our local community colleges, and really helping to provide a very resourceful platform for them to engage in some career fair opportunities too. So on our team, our planning team, we had representation from local universities, 3 large universities. They wanted to engage with job seekers and would-be college grads. The local community college, their healthcare department was very involved and engaged. And so it really, really helped other entities and agencies in our community to see that this can work. This is innovative. It is new, but we can certainly use this as a great tool to pivot. So the employers as well as the organizational participants were all very, very expressive about how great they felt the experience was.
Perfect. Thank you, Joyce. If you're doing an IT one, Michael has and he mentioned Nikki's name with Palm Beach Tech, down here. They've done a few on the IT side, and, Michael has been involved with those. Bianca, you kind of touched on this, so I'm going to, go a little bit more because I had one of the questions got asked too is, how do you promote your events? What all do you do when you're promoting your events?
Right now, we have kind of a double campaign, cooperative campaign going on. The traditional stuff that we do is obviously the PR, the press releases. We do specific pitches to certain reporters that we know will pick up. We also package some of our press releases with additional media. Sometimes we have what we call Workforce Wednesdays, which is a weekly vlog that we do that incorporates our interviews and discussions about what's coming up with what we're offering as far as job fairs or employment services. So we send that along with our press kit, and that's kind of what assists us. It helps get more coverage for that on the PR aspect. We do social media. We do put all of our job fairs on web banners on our website, and we also do media buys. So whether it's radio or digital banners that we do on the news websites, we make sure to take advantage of that. To explain my co-op campaign a little bit more is we are using what we call the Ready to Work campaign, which is intended to be a little bit more of a motivational pivot type campaign to encourage job seekers that are unemployed, that this may be an opportunity to level up skills, to pivot from one career to another, to get better at what they're doing. And we're offering all types of workshops and webinars. In addition to that, we add that layer of, once you do get through these webinars, workshops, trainings, and certifications that we're offering for free, go ahead and jump onto the job fairs that are going to be coming up to take advantage and be a better candidate, a more marketable candidate. Coming in the next few weeks, we have an extension of the Ready to Work campaign is called the Workforce Approved campaign, where we're going to, we have a series of webinar courses that if a job seeker completes the series, they get what we would call a Workforce Approved badge that they can use on their resume. And these badges are going to kind of show job seekers, if they've endured through the series and passed everything and gotten the badge, they've become a much more marketable candidate, and the employer can be assured that this person has customer service skills, the various soft skills required, certain types of management skills, depending on which workforce approved course they go through. So that's another way that we're kind of trying to bring all this together. And we are using, especially now before the 25th, we are using we don't want to necessarily say a fear tactic, but we are very constantly reminding unemployed job seekers that the July 25th deadline is coming up. So in these weeks leading up, we took major advantage of media buys, outdoor billboards. The radio stations are doing live interviews with us where we're constantly saying, hey, what are you going to do when July 25th happens? Rather than be at the line and constantly be on the phone trying to get more benefits or trying to beat the rush, get your webinars in, get your workshops in, and then once the job fairs do come, be ready to work, be workforce approved, and be a more marketable, competitive candidate. So it's kind of a lot of things tying in together, but we're doing that to really make this an opportunity and kind of see the silver lining as to what's happening with everybody with the pandemic. And for us, our mission is to really develop the workforce in the Borderplex area. And we're seeing this as a major opportunity for us to make that happen.
Perfect. Thank you, Bianca. Thomas, did you have any barriers or challenges from switching from in-person to virtual, right? We all know we had to do it, but what were some of the barriers that maybe you had to overcome, to make that switch?
That's a good question, and it came up in one of our board meetings last week. Technology in general, and when I say that, our employers didn't have any difficulties in building their booths. As a matter of fact, the business services team, it being our first event, we thought it was best for us to kind of have a part in that. Thank you, Steve, for that suggestion. So we would know how to direct them accordingly. But we did have some job seekers that, because of technology, didn't participate. We had about, and we don't know for how many, but we did, as a career center, we're open by appointment only now. But what we did do is make sure that we had available slots on June 30th to accommodate the job seekers that may not have had a computer or may not have had access to the internet. But we did hear from some of the staff that certain populations of their caseload didn't feel comfortable participating because of technology, or didn't feel that, of course, the system is very user-friendly, in my opinion. But, understanding that not everyone is comfortable with technology, more so from the job seeker side. We had about 330 job seekers registered for the event. The day of the event, we had 263. So there is a possibility that technology, or the fear of the event itself, of course, life happens on the way to work. So we understand that not everyone that registered was going to be at the event. But technology was one of the things that, every year we do an annual job fair at one of the local hotels. We usually have about 50 employers, which we were on par for that, because we had 53 signed up and 40 who actually participated the day of. We usually have about 400 job seekers, give or take. And in this event, we had 263. So, of course, it's a different climate too. So, a year ago, we weren't dealing with, what we're dealing with now. So technology was really one of the barriers, if you will. And again, not because the system was so difficult, and it's not because our employers were intimidated. It was more so the participation on the job seeker side. From some of the other feedback, it was really nothing else as far as, of course, with the job seekers, some job seekers were looking for certain positions or certain type of opportunities that we may not have had available on the day of. But other than that, that really was the only barrier, besides the human factor too. With anything new, I had to encourage my team to, take it by the horns and do it. To be quite honest with you, I think most of my team wanted to hold off on having the event, but I knew that the need and the urgency, and to Michael's point, anytime you can connect our job seekers with our employers, that's why we're here. So I kind of had to overrule that, but there was a little fear even from our staff because it was something new, and it all happened within 3 to 4 weeks. So it was fairly quick too. So those were really the only two barriers that I could think of off the top.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. Michael, you actually get 2 questions here. Okay. One is, how important do you think it is to have, again, by being in Florida, how important do you think it is to have all of the career sources in Florida to be on one platform?
I think it's incredibly important, because we were all being inundated by different vendors, and it was going in different directions, and people were doing mixed things, and there was no consistency. So when I came across you, our first event that we did, I immediately called to Career Source Florida in Tallahassee and connected you with them. And now they took their budget, which we all would have had to take in our own individual budgets, and they allocated money to buy one platform for the entire state. So it has availed us to now do whatever we want, whenever we want. I don't have to go out and look for budget to do something. I have a defined period of time to do as many events as we want. And last week, you remember, Steve, on Monday, the county came to us and wanted us to do some specific hiring for them. And within 3 or 4 days, we had that set up. It took a lot of time to do, but we did the right thing and we got people in jobs immediately. So that's the beauty of working with one vendor across the state.
Perfect, thank you. And then, kind of the next point is, and you've done more events, right, or been kind of involved in more events than a lot of the other ones, is how have your results compared to your expectations?
I think they've met our expectations because we've gotten better each time we've done one. And our business services team and recruiters that are industry specific are now engaging and taking ownership. And the other thing that we're doing now is I'm assembling different boards across the state to become part of this users group to have input and feedback to you, Steve, and your developers and staff. And I think that's very valuable because coming from IBM and Citrix, users groups are very helpful to technology providers.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. All right. So this last question before we get into kind of to letting everybody in the audience kind of ask questions is, this is going to kind of be an open question. So, if any one of the panelists want to jump in, and if you want to give just kind of a quick, maybe 30-second to 1 minute of if you could give any advice to anyone here that's listening or kind of looking at their options or thinking about, is virtual the right thing for them? What would that advice be?
Are you saying your company or just a virtual?
Anything you want, right? Obviously, right? Saying
your company is
right?
veteran-owned, all veteran employees. Support them. They're the best.
I wasn't even given that softball question for that, David, but thank you. But no, really kind of the, what they could do, because we've heard it, right? Like, I had a list of other questions of, the reporting aspect or, how did you come to Premier Virtual?
The number one reason for it, it's safer. It's safer. At the end of the day, when we're all locked inside, and some of you still are, I still am, it's safer. It's the best way of getting to people. I think the one opportunity from a public workforce perspective is we need to do a better job as a whole training people how to use their smartphones so that they can use this technology. I do not agree with the notion that our job seekers don't have connection to technology. They might not have laptops at home or computers, but most people have a smartphone. So I think that's where we need to do better. And hint, Steve, I don't know what this platform is like on a mobile phone, but we'll need to get an app for it soon.
Yeah.
45 seconds.
All right. Thank you, David. Anybody else?
I'll follow up. I think that the virtual approach is an absolutely powerful, it's an absolute powerful opportunity. Prior to COVID, we did small job fairs, here in the Career Center, and we didn't have nearly the numbers, within the Career Center. And that could vary from having, individual employers or even multiple employers. But what I saw is that when we went virtual, we were able to reach individuals of all different types of professional backgrounds, educational backgrounds, individuals that had not heard of Guilford Works or NC Works or Career Centers. And we used that as an opportunity to draw them in. Even though it was a job fair, the way we set our job fair up is that we brought our Career Center to them. So we gave them an opportunity to engage with our Career Center, to learn about what our services were, to get them registered, to get them engaged, to ask their questions, because obviously not everybody's going to get a job when they apply. So we wanted to, make sure we had that connection to them. Then we're able to introduce them to the university space. So you had several universities there. They were able to look at, acquiring skills and certifications to pursue different career paths in nursing. it was an amazing event. We started out with just, we wanted to start out small. We started out with, we said we're going to do no more than maybe 5 employers. We maxed out at 10. We had other employers trying to register. We're like, wait a minute, let's slow this down. We were in the process of procuring you all services, so we had to really park it a little bit and slow down. The event started to go faster than us, but we stopped at 10, and we had 10 fully engaged employers. You know, we had over 435 registrants, and those registrants submitted 234 applications. So what we wanted to work on is in enhancing and growing our retention, and we found some communication channels to do that. And I like some of the things that Bianca shared with some of the communication. So we're going to look at adding a few additional tools to really bridge that gap from when they register to really connecting them to the event. And I think, Thomas, you mentioned that fear. So it could be barriers such as fear, access, not remembering, or just knowing how to go back and get to that link. So it was amazing. It's powerful. I saw the reverse in our center. I saw we had smaller numbers with live events, in-person events. And once we did this one virtual event, it opened us up to a world of constituents in our city who had no connection with us, that we had now another opportunity to serve individuals that were really looking for jobs. And we're not just talking about, entry level. We're talking PhDs, master's degrees, executive experience, hands-on experience, clinical, hospital, emergency room. So it was really amazing to see kind of how using something as powerful as a virtual platform could really help us reach our community.
All right. Thank you, Joyce. Anybody else? Bianca, Michael, Thomas, any other advice that you would give out to anybody?
I actually have some info. And going back to David's comment about accessibility or access to technology and even just intimidation by technology. In addition to that, something we definitely see happen just based on the feedback that we're seeing at our call centers. We also have language barriers with this. So as part of the solution, our middle name is Workforce Solutions Borderplex. That's our tagline. I had to throw it out there. But we see this and we know this. And unfortunately, we don't want to leave anyone behind with what we're doing, especially with, although the innovation is amazing and there's been a lot of feedback, there's still that group of people that we need to help. And actually, it's a priority population to get that, as far as a marketing campaign, to get them ready to work, to level them up. So as part of that solution, those webinars that I'm talking about, and they're real simple webinar, they're Zoom, but we're pushing it and targeting this group. And we're doing these webinars in Spanish, and it's how to create a document, a Word document. So topics as simple as that, very simple, basic technology, how to do a virtual interview. What do you need to prepare for? What can they see? How do you respond to that? The questions. So our topics and webinars vary with that, and we're trying to kind of instill as much as possible to assist that population as well, to reduce the intimidation or the access. So that's just something.
Thank you, Bianca. Well, let's get on a call maybe tomorrow or Thursday. I have an idea for your next one of your next events. I'd like to have one of the rooms. We have a Spanish speaking room, so the companies that are going to be in there, we put it in Spanish. So let's try that on one of your next ones.
And you just reminded me, we actually just purchased that. We're getting that additional license with Premier, so that one of the logins for our account is going to be dedicated to these webinars as well, so that people can get familiar with the platform by doing these webinars in addition to just the job fair. So we're starting to use the tool for other purposes as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Bianca. Michael, Thomas, I want to get questions from the thing, but I think that everybody's loving this advice that you're giving. So, Michael, Thomas, quick advice from you.
Now, take the questions. I think people do have a lot of questions, actually.
All right. So we had one question from Robert, Robert actually had done an event in Indiana. So has anyone posted their jobs per company on a landing page leading up to the event, referring candidates to review that page before the event?
I
Yes.
think we just gave job titles and we let people know the types of jobs that were going to be at the event. but not specifically linked to the company.
Sorry, Michael. Yeah, we did, and the learning that we got from there is that a large number of people would apply several days before the event actually happened, and then there was some customer service issue because they didn't know why the employer wasn't going to contact them immediately. And so what we do is we just push these things out maybe a few hours before.
We shared the company's links, their career pages. We shared access to the participating employers' career pages so that when candidates did go on and register, they were able to really just take a look at the company, learn information about the company and the positions they had available.
All right, thank you. Another question was, how did you access text information for unemployed workers?
I can answer that on our end since we did use the text campaign, but we have a part of the requirement when they register for unemployment benefits is that they register for our job platform. And we use that contact information to reach out to them for employer services, whether it's additional Texas benefits or anything else that we can do to make them eligible for our programs to help develop them. We utilize that tool for ourselves.
All right, absolutely. Chris, you had asked, is there a way to integrate Microsoft Translate into the Premier platform to adjust for languages? We're actually working on some things right now on that with language barriers and stuff like that. So it is something that we're currently working on. And I think of, some of the panelists will see, and I'm not going to answer for them, but, sometimes certain things will be brought to our attention. Michael asked me a question one time on a call if there was something that we could do about putting the Employ Florida website right on our landing page. And we made, now we're making, the change where we're doing it. We love feedback from our organization. So, Chris, great question. So yes, we are working on that. Another question we had is, can anyone share if you've charged employers to attend?
All free.
Yeah. All free.
Okay. All right.
Free.
All right, perfect. And then, Fred had a little bit more about the webinar platform. Right now we allow the organizations to integrate with whatever they use, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, Zooms, to be able to run those webinars. I take security very serious here. So I've always left the chat. So it's not a group chat just for privacy reasons. I'll always have an individual chat. That's something we'll always have. But that's why we also allow the organizations, if they want to have webinars and everything like that too, is we can create in the lobby page a webinar. And, Michael has seen this a lot on the tech ones where they might have a webinar through it and the candidates come in and they can see the webinar. And Bianca is now, they're using it as well, where it's going to have a webinar and then they have the Zoom on the back side so the candidates can log in. And it's all tracked on. It's still just like in all of the other, right? It's tracked on what they looked at when they were in there, as well as, once they went into the webinar. We do have something that we are building on the back end to have our own platform as well, just because we're something in the future is we're going to have network rooms and everything like that as well. As we continue to grow, we're going to always add new things to our platform. So, on the webinar side, Fred, if you want, we can also get on a call and I can show you kind of what the other organizations are doing. So I can show it to you right on the demo side. So does anybody else have any other questions or anything that they'd like to go over again? All right. Question from Joanne. What types of social media marketing campaigns did you all push out leading up to your events? Was it LinkedIn posts from your company page, Twitter, Facebook, or was it targeted ads? Or was it more asking the recruiters to share on their own personal social media accounts, or any other creative or helpful advice?
So we pushed it out through everything that we had. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, but we also connected to all of our elected officials, all of our economic development departments, our community organizations, and they pushed it out as well. And so from a social marketing perspective, it all went out as broadly as possible. And we found that that was, again, we used to print pieces of paper. I'm not doing that anymore.
Casting a wide net. So, you know, Bianca, I'm going to kind of throw this to you a little bit, and to Michael, because I know, right, I saw both of the news releases that went out, right, when they had the events. How did you send something to news stations? I know, Bianca, you said you had a media buy, but did you also send like Twitter messages to reporters, or did you send like press releases to the news? What did you do?
We have a distribution list for all the media, regional and local, and we sent our press releases to them with links to our YouTube channel that has the Workforce Wednesday vlog, where they were able to access our video, B-roll, our media, like flyers of the job fair, and actual interviews from us. So we did that, but I would text reporters independently, like, hey, we're covering this, can you please help us out? So there, we followed we use what critical mention to kind of follow coverage. And until COVID, I mean, we were getting okay coverage in the past, but with COVID, we are constantly in the news, and we're constantly sending out anything about jobs and opportunities with the center. So press-wise, I don't think I've ever been this busy.
All right, thank you. Michael, did you guys do anything, you know, on the press release side?
We did, and we have good relationships with the media, obviously. Pretty much every day I drive up here at 7:15, and there's a news truck in the parking lot with their antenna up, and Tom goes out and talks to them, and then they actually were doing interviews with people on the job fairs and so forth. So it's been very positive from our perspective, like Bianca said, like David said. So it's top of mind right now. Everybody wants to help everybody get back to work in Palm Beach County.
One thing that we're doing to supplement, not only just to promote the job fairs, but it does end up promoting the job fairs indirectly, is we are pushing out data reports as frequently as possible. Every week we push out the weekly unemployment numbers. We coordinate the data to show like the top 10 zip codes that are being affected. We show the individual rural areas that are being affected, and just kind of a month-to-month comparison. So we're sending that every week, so it's fresh on the minds of media. So there's constant, it's just constant reminders that we exist. And at this point, I think everybody finally understands that we're Workforce Solutions, not the unemployment office, but the development center, which was a stigma that we fought for a long time. But I would recommend that. Just I know that everybody's already up there, and we're on the mind, but just credibility with data, it goes a really long way. It's been going a really long way for us.
Steve,
Right.
what worked for us, Steve, was our partners, our agency partners, economic development, our chamber groups, our collegiate connections, their audiences. In our planning sessions, we identified just what those audience opportunities were, what their contact database list looked like, and they were able to share to their audiences. Our marketing department also sent out a press release, and then that began to circulate. And there were a couple of news media outlets that actually circulated it on their news shows at night, and also online. And there was also an interview. So I also had a chance to interview and share about the event, and it began to continue to pick up momentum.
All right. Thank you, Joyce. All right. Doesn't look like there's any last questions. Going once, going twice. Any last questions? Any last advice that you want to, give anybody out there about what they can do to, make sure they have successful events?
I would just say this, the platform is, it does a great job, but it has many uses. And so right now I'm looking at this as, our local airports are looking to lay off thousands of people. So how can I, instead of giving an employer a booth, how can I give one of our partners in the public workforce system a booth? So that way I can use the PV platform as a rapid response vehicle versus a job fair vehicle. And so I look at it and I think it's very malleable. It's something that I would just, there's more than one use for this thing. I encourage you to purchase an annual license agreement.
Thank you, David. I didn't even have to pay him to say that. That's good press right there. Well, no, I appreciate, and I just want to thank everybody for, jumping on, listening, especially thank you to my panelists that, that came on, Michael, Bianca, Joyce, David, Thomas, for again, giving your time to these other people out there, because we know a lot of people out there, kind of still don't really know what they want to do. A lot of people are in holding patterns, but I think the most important thing is the advice that you gave them, no matter if they use Premier Virtual's platform or they use somebody else's platform, they can take the advice from their peers that you gave them to be able to go back to their organizations to say, this is what we learned today. Here are a couple things that we have to be able to help us. Because every person on this phone has one goal, and that's to get people that are unemployed employed. And that's everybody's goal that's on here. So again, I appreciate everybody's. Thank you for your time today. And we'll also send out a recording of this as well. So if you want to watch it, if you want to put it out there. So again, everybody have a wonderful week, and let's help get America back to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.